Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation about a weather map in Sri Lanka. So what is this weather map? So in the presentation, the Sri Lanka Department of Meteorology provides a weather report which is updated only every 3 hours. So I have modified their map with real-time data with the metrics like you can see temperature, humidity, pressure. So with those metrics I have updated their current weather map. So these are planned to be gathered by an island-wide fleet of IoT weather stations. So as you can see, the Sri Lanka Department of Meteorology intends to improve its weather services by modernizing its existing weather app. This project based on RESTful web APIs to gather, process and distribute real-time weather data. Let's move to the next slide. So here you can see the Sri Lanka map has appeared with current weather typed those icons, the clouds, the sun and the rainy clouds. Those icons will display that the current weather situation in that particular district. So here this is the map and you can use this plus and minus icons to zoom in and zoom out. So here the name of the logged user. So if you logged with this, your name will display here and your profile picture will display here. So once you clicked on a specific district, let's say I clicked on Kandy, so this card will pop up. So this card will tell you the district name, temperature, humidity, air pressure, and there's a small cute image included in this, and it will say the weather type also. So let's see the use case diagram. So once you clicked on the login, sorry, my mistake. Once you clicked on the login part, let's say an unauthorized user is trying to log in. So when he clicked on the login button, he will redirect to the previous window because his access will be rejected. Then let's say this is an authorized user, so he is trying to log in and with his credentials, and it will be successful because he is an authorized user. So once he logged in successfully, then he can access view map. So he or she can view the map, and he or she can click on a specific district, and he or she can view the weather data. So this is the basic idea of this use case diagram about the weather map. And here the sequence diagram for the map viewing. So when let's say this is an authorized user, so he will navigate to web page, and this is front end. Okay, let's explain this. So front end, this is the map, and weather API is there, MySQL database is there, and authorization survey is there. So once a user is trying to log in, he will navigate to the web page and he will enter his credentials, basically the email. Then this map, that means the front end, will directly connect to the authorization server because authentication and authorization request with that request. If the credentials are valid, then the authorization server will send a request, that means pass the data that okay, this user is have valid credentials, so valid authentication and valid authorization. So then if the if the credentials are invalid, authorization server will send an pass data by saying this is those credentials are invalid and this is an invalid authentication. So then let's see the else part, which means that access denied part. So once the auth server pass the data that this data is these credentials are invalid, that moment front end will be deny his access. So after that we can call that user, okay, this is an unauthorized user. Let's say these credentials are valid and this is an authorized user, then that user will direct into this section, loop, inside the loop section. So there's a loop because query database has to be update every 5 minutes. So from the weather API, MySQL database will be updated every 5 minutes. Then once the after updating every 5 minutes, while updating every 5 minutes, MySQL, we have to check, okay, MySQL database. So if MySQL database contains data, then it will retrieve weather data to the web API. Once web API receives those weather data, it will pass those weather data into the front end, which means map. So map will display the weather data. If data is unavailable, then the MySQL database will pass the message that data is unavailable, and weather API will pass the message, pass an error message by saying data is unavailable. So after that, front end, which means the mapping, also display that error message. So user can see either data which appeared in the map or else the error message if data is unavailable. Let's move to the next. I hope you can understand, and let's move to the next slide. So this is the sequence diagram for the Weave individual district weather data, which means after user clicked on a specific district. So I have put an assumption that user is already logged in. That means the previous sequence diagram is successfully completed and this is the other one. So once user clicked on a district, map will pass the data, okay, weather API, to the weather API. User has clicked on this and I'm requesting for the weather data. Then weather API will pass the request to the MySQL database by asking for the data, query database. Then if there's an if condition, so if data available in the MySQL database, then MySQL database will retrieve weather data into the weather API. So once weather API received those retrieved weather data, it will pass weather data into the front end, which means the map. So once map received those weather data, it will display all the received data. Assume that if data is unavailable, then the MySQL database will retrieve the data unavailable message, and weather API will pass the error message, and front end, which means the map, will shows an error message. So either data available, data will be appeared. If data is unavailable, there will be an error message. So user can see this through this pop-up, which means the card that I showed you earlier. So this is the sequence diagram for the Weave individual district weather data. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, here comes the feasibility study. When it comes to operational feasibility, since the Sri Lankan Department of Meteorology is unable to implement IoT stations immediately, this project will be using the randomly generated data. I used randomly generated data. Then when it comes to technical feasibility, which means this, the project uses current technologies such as Node.js, MySQL and AWS. So making it technically possible, which means simple to design and deploy the system. So once we look at the third point, which means legal and ethical feasibility. So the system is supposed to use the weather data gathered by the Sri Lankan Department of Meteorology. Therefore, it complies with legal and ethical standards. So there's no doubt in legal and ethical feasibility. So when it comes to resource requirement, knowledge in React.js, Node.js and MySQL and RESTful API development and also AWS cloud is important. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, when it comes to methodology, system architecture, deployment, I chose waterfall development as the methodology. And when it comes to system architecture, this image will shows you the system architecture. So front end will pass data back and forth with the middleware, and middleware pass data back and forth with the backend, and backend pass data back and forth with the database. So once database retrieve data to the backend, the backend will pass it to the middleware, and middleware pass it to the front end, and user can use the front end to view those data. When it comes to deployment details, cloud hosting has done with AWS, and CI/CD pipeline in render deployment platform has used. So when it comes to practices followed in development of this project, API design, so compliance with REST API guidelines, with the JSON API standards. And when it comes to security, implementation of secure authentication mechanisms, and authorization for authorized users only, those points are come under security. And API calls are there, secure implementation of API calls, advanced API design features and security measures. When it comes to DOM, document object module, implementation of interactive SPA, single page application with DOM manipulation. And data is stored in MySQL database. And when it comes to functionality, all the functions are demonstrated and manual testing is completed in this project. Let's see the technologies and tooling. So code versioning and repository done using the GitHub, and API design has done by using the Swagger. Then the programming has done by using the Node.js, and project hosting has done by using the project hosting API has done by using the AWS, and other tools and technologies like Postman has been used. So this is the end of this presentation of weather map in Sri Lanka. I hope you have all understood the content and all. So yes, thank you for watching.